Hey, Derek and I are very grateful for all of your listening, all of your support and encouragement. As we at Random Fandom are just learning the ropes of podcasting, we also are thankful and look forward to your feedback. So, if you'd like to join our community and let us know what you think, that would be super. We're on Facebook and we have a Discord as well. It's a small community, but it's ever growing. It's been a hard year on a lot of folks. I mean, really, really hard. And we hope that we might be a blessing to you and an inspiration as you have all been to us. This week, Bruce Mitchell is a conceptual sculptor. This really, really cool guy. We sit down and we talk about what it's like in Hollywood, life as an artist, making masks, and just sit back and shoot the breeze. So we hope you enjoy the show. It's a lot of fun. Sit back, relax, and on we go.
I built the magic smoke over it, sanded it, applied more, sanded it, applied more. You remember I dropped it and had to reapply.
I did that to this, actually. I made, do you remember, did I show you this?
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
So-
from Frozen 2.
Yeah, so one of the kids, and I had painted it all up and everything, and one of the kids threw it,
Yeah.
knocked his head and his tail clean off. So
You able to fix it with Magic Sculpt or something?
Well, I just used Sculpey. I just put it back and then
Wow.
redid it, and then I had to sand everything down. So of course now he looks like he's got some kind of weird skin disease. But I thought, yeah, this super Sculpey just breaks too easily.
Oh
So
yeah, it's super fragile. Yeah.
yeah, so I'm just gonna like mold it and then redo it in resin. But I did it larger too, because
Oh yeah, I saw that one. Yeah, it's really great.
I like this.
And it's
one.
just super Sculpey?
No, this is not the monster clay, but the kind of version of monster.
The one
clay.
you have, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I gotta say, after having sort of earned my stripes with the monster clay, I like it.
Yeah, yeah, man, your Yoda looks awesome.
Oh, thank you.
That was really cool. Nice eyes.
Thank you.
6%. Are those the ones I made?
Yeah.
Well, they look better than I thought they did.
That's why I was like, you know, you kept saying I got to get you some good eyes, and I'm like, okay.
Well, I do need to get you some good eyes. I just sent in the chat a link to my new website.
Oh, okay. Great.
I'm switching domains so that it switches over to james-wright.design, which is but it hasn't switched yet, so it's still on the Squarespace. But do me a favor and take a look at that and give me your feedback as a designer and as a art director. And if you see anything misspelled,
I know. You know what I kept doing? I kept doing lowercase i's, and everybody caught me on it.
I have done that for years, and I don't know. He like logs on and then walks away because he's that cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll take a look at it.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
You hear me?
All right. Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay, cool. Derek, Bruce, Derek.
Hey, Derek. Let me
Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you too. Are you stateside? You in LA?
Yeah, I'm in LA. I'm just in.
Okay. I'm in right off the
Okay.
clock.
Yeah, not far. I work at Rough Draft Studios
Okay.
and doing animation. We're doing Disenchantment right now.
Nice. You know what? You mentioned a Rocketeer project.
Yes, I finished up Rocketeer. It was one of those things. I went into my director's office and they had all this top secret Rocketeer stuff out, and I said, "Oh my God, if this is a thing, I need to be a part of this."
Yeah.
And so they said, "Well, we need someone to do 1 minute animation. Do you want to do it?" And I said, "Give it to me. I'll just." They're like, "Yeah, but you're on this other project." I said, "I don't care. Give it to me."
I quit.
Yeah, I quit that. I'm on this. So I got to do the 1 minute animation, and then maybe like a year later, they said, "Hey, yeah, it's gone to series." But then Disney had put their hands all over it, and you know, what I wanted was Greatest American Hero. I wanted her to get this rocket pack. She's 8, right? and not know how. Yeah, and so there's danger, and she doesn't know how to use it. She's figuring it out, like But Disney, they're like, no, second episode, she's good at it. So, you get what you get.
Yeah.
There's a 3-month learning curve in between 1 and 2.
Yeah, well, and I mean, most of it's aired now, but the idea was that at the end of the series, she finds out that her grandfather, that's how she got the pack, was her grandfather was the original.
Cliff sequel.
Yeah. And then they ended up cutting that. They ended up cutting the whole thing. So, yeah.
So, it just came out here.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and the girls just went, what is this? And I said, hey, guess who's got their hand in that pie? And they were like, you? And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh.
It was funny because I'm on a lot of the boards for the Rocketeer fans, and they were just railing against it. And I said, okay, look, I agree with you on so many points. Even though I worked on it, I'm not gonna try to save it for you. I said, but imagine this: your little girl walks in and says, "Dad, there's this thing called Rocketeer," and you go, "Honey, let's talk." And you have some, whoa, Dad's cool. He knows what it is. But that only lasted for so long.
So, Derek, you took Bruce's mask making class.
I did.
Oh, did you? Awesome.
Yeah, that was fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
And because of you, I came to know the wonders of Magic Sculpt.
Right on. Excellent.
Yep.
I was
like
James. Cost here.
Oh, it's got to be crazy, right?
It's $400.
What
is Magic Sculpt?
Magic Sculpt.
What's that?
I'll pack it in something for you and send it to you.
It's too heavy. It's one of those things like Monster Clan stuff. It falls under a weird hazmat thing where they can't determine what it is, but the sheer import and customs drives it up. So when they bring it in, you have to buy, it's like Costco, you have to buy like 4 of the 2 tub things at the same time. And it's $400. So it's basically $100 per. It's $50 per little tub.
Oh, wow.
Half. It's insane.
That is
I'm spoiled. Just go to Reynolds.
Yeah, in fact, I'm going to go there this week. Get some silicone.
Oh, yeah. I wanted to ask, can I wire you some money if you'll get some of those, the tools?
Tell me which ones you want. Let me get them, and then we'll talk. Don't wire me anything until.
I'm not going to ask you to go get a bunch of stuff and not sit there like $15 a pop. I'm not going to ask you.
I know, but I can float it for a little bit, so that's cool. I just want to make sure, because here's the thing: if I get them and they're not, I can show you. This is what I got. If you don't like it, I go return it.
I'll take anything. It's either me waste so much time making my own, and then probably 20% of the time I don't heat it up just right and it pops on me or something, and then I've wasted half a day. I'm getting that stuff here. The closest guitar shop is in Shinjuku, and I have to walk over there from my office.
to get the guitar strings.
Yeah. I was talking about motion picture effects and the tools I get there sometimes.
They're all around the corner from you, though.
Yeah, exactly. They are.
I used to go
luxury.
I used to get off at Van Owen, I used to go over there, go to Reynolds, and then hit work.
Okay.
Go from there through the back streets. But yeah, last year, I'm part of the prop maker Secret Santa, just for fun. And the guy said he wanted a Avatar Blue Spirit mask. And I said, I know how to do this.
Right on.
Yeah, because you had shown us how to do it. So I got a cheap mask, reinforced it, put a layer of clay over it, built the.
You mean the Airbender Avatar?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The Zuko, right? It's Zuko. Yeah. But yeah, so I built it, sanded it, reapplied, added, and it came out great. So thank you for that.
Oh, dude, you're welcome. That was a pleasure to do. Those guys have been great to work with. I do enjoy it.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and get started then. Derek, you want to do the opening this time?
Sure. All right.
He's got a better radio voice than I do.
All right. Welcome to Random Fandom, a podcast for Jack of all trades. Tonight we have a special guest. Bruce Mitchell is joining us. Effects man extraordinaire. He'll tell us his whole story, I'm sure. Both James and I know him from Stan Winston classes. And let's welcome him tonight.
Hey, thank you. Thank you very
Hey,
much.
Bruce, thanks for joining us, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's good to meet you both. So it's I know I've kept in touch with you guys over the social medias, but it's been very cool to go ahead and sit down and actually chat it out.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
this is sort of the way we're doing things now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
everybody's
excellent.
on house arrest.
And it works too when you consider where we are in the world right now. And I don't mean news wise. I just mean actually geographically.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah, I mean-
amazing technology to have. So
I'm in Tokyo. You guys could throw a baseball between each other, probably.
Yeah.
almost.
Yeah. If you make something good to eat, I'll be there before it gets cold. So
That's true. Yeah, it's not that far. About 20 minutes.
depending, yeah.
Yeah,
We've got,
well now maybe 10.
Yeah.
Traffic's killer.
I was like, there's no traffic.
Oh, there isn't. I think I posted something on Facebook, but I live very close to the 5 freeway, which is one of the biggest freeways through the state. And I will hear at like 4 a.m. motorcycles. They took down the sound wall that was near the freeway to rebuild it,
Oh yeah.
but I will hear them coming and going. And I've started to hear in the last month a new sort of motorcycle pitch that is louder and whinier and screamier than I've ever heard. And I've started to realize it's just because the freeways are open, and the guys that would basically be the motorcycle terrorists of the freeway world during rush hour are now on open roads, and they're probably doing 200 miles an hour.
Oh god.
It's like Akira. It's
Yeah.
got to be some sort of battle going on out there. But it's
Do you know what the Bozozoku are?
I do, yeah.
Yeah, so Derek,
Twice, I know that.
Bozozoku they are a motorcycle gang. It's kind of the motorcycle mafia of Japan, and they just
Yeah.
ride around and like they wear crazy Yankee get-ups, and
But they got flags and everything too.
yeah, mohawks, flags, and just trailing behind them. One time, a couple years ago, we were coming home from church, and so all the kids are in the back singing and stuff, and a bunch of them were like riding right behind us, and then swung around and came in front and thought they'd be funny and started putting on their brakes and making everybody have to stop on the highway, like all
Mhm.
across the length of the highway, making everybody stop. And I was losing my temper a little bit, and my wife was just like, just calm down, just take a breath, don't give yourself a heart attack. I'm like, okay. And they pulled behind me, and so I slowed down, and that really ticked him off.
Yeah.
And he pulled out in front of me again and then slammed on his brakes. I thought, okay, fine, you're a bike, I'm a car. Wham! And I just ran right into him. And
Really?
yeah, and like he and 4 of his buddies got off his bike and got out, and I was like, okay.
Oh yeah,
And I
yeah.
opened the door and stepped out, and they were not expecting this like
Of course not.
over 6-foot gaijin, and all of them were just like, ooh, we're getting back on our bikes. And I was like, and I grabbed the guy by the arms and I just picked him up off his bike and I said, are you okay?
And it's
By the end of the
yeah,
conversation,
that's
my wife was
emulating
like,
big American culture. That's like if they tried to dress up like a cowboy and you showed up. This is our culture.
worn
I
my
don't dress
cowboy
like a
hat in there,
samurai and go to
dude.
Japan.
It was funny. By the end of this thing, this guy and I was like, listen, man, my wife is calling the police right now. If I were you guys, I'd get back on your bikes, go home, and maybe 5 minutes later, the police had showed up. And I was like, no, I don't know where they went. They ran off someplace. We had exchanged numbers.
Yeah.
I was like, we'll go out for a drink. But, I figure you either fight with them or you befriend them. Man.
Yeah.
So
it's a good balance, though.
So it could be an in-between someplace.
If you gave them like the hang loose, would they get it? Would they know what that is? Is that international at all?
They don't know what that is. It's the Tony Stark. No gang signs.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, they know. I think they know this one.
Well, they know this one.
But yeah, everybody knows this one. But everybody does it backwards here, and so I have a lot of friends who are British, and they're like, "Stop doing that."
Yeah, right.
That's
right.
the Archer thing, right? Yeah. That's that.
Yeah,
I love that.
Read between the lines.
Yeah.
Did you? What was it? Was it a Muppets Christmas Carol or something? When Beaker stormed out of the Scrooge's office and he stuck up his hand like this, but he doesn't have a middle finger.
Right. Yeah.
And it was kind of like, did he just flip him the bird because he doesn't have a bird? It's like a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles thing. No middle finger to flick up. Okay.
Sorry, tangent.
Tangent. That's okay. That's what this is about.
All right,
Enough of this
cool.
intelligent conversation.
Do you want to start off by telling us how you got started or how you got sucked into this industry?
Yeah, I'm going to grab a book really quick because it was pivotal, and it's just on the shelf back there.
Check out the cool studio he's working in there.
The Story of My Life, Volume 1.
How many volumes is it?
12.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I think I'm still on volume 1.
Yeah.
So I was 5 years old when I saw Star Wars, and I saw it with my brother, who was 3 at the time, and I saw it with my mom and my dad. And it was 1977, and that movie was it. That was incredible. Superman came out afterwards. That was another one that was pretty spectacular. But I was totally into movies after that, and everything was Star Wars related. Star Wars people came out, so I grew up as a fresh 5-year-old when Star Wars hit the world. So that was my kind of upbringing, and also the catalyst for my imagination at the time. I grew up with that. I loved the movies, and then even just a little bit older, I was, how did they do that? How did they do that? I'd see pictures and stuff in magazines, and I was always into the behind the scenes after I realized it was models and miniatures and things and stop motion animation. That was my era of fascination. So I would buy, or my parents would buy, anytime I asked them, when we would see making of magazines that came out. And I've even bought them since on eBay, but they were the ones from Gremlins, the ones from 2010.
Mm-hmm.
And these were pivotal to me. And then the thing that I started to notice in there would always be a segment within the magazine that was 5 to 10 pages, and it was purely on the special effects. It wasn't on the actors, it wasn't on the writers, it was just on how things were made. And in the background, you would see the Gremlins, but they were half made, and they were unpainted foam latex. I didn't know what it was at the time, but I know now. And I was super impressed with that world, and I saw a glimpse of it. And I'd see glimpses every time there was a big movie that came out, and I'd get that magazine. And after a few of those, I started to recognize the names of the people, whether it was Industrial Light and Magic or Apogee, or whether it was Steve Johnson or Chris Wallace or Rick Baker. It was all these guys, and I started to put together these are guys that do this for a living. So I wanted to do that. And then when I was about 14 or 15, I think we lived in Santa Rosa at the time, and it's an hour north of San Francisco. And she got me this book. I since bought it again, but it was Industrial Light and Magic, the first 10 years. And this is back in the analog days of that. This is when they still had a monster shop, model shop.
Yeah,
I have that.
Yeah, this is an incredible book. There are pictures in here that I can go back to that are big sources of inspiration for me and have always been. And a lot of them are just the concept models, and they were super sculpty and clay, and they were this simple stuff that people threw together quickly. That were the concepts for the monsters in the background of Jabba's palace for Return of the Jedi. And that was 83 when that came out. So the onslaught of all the making of stuff started to come out in 84 and 85, because print was a much slower reaction then. There was no internet. That was the other thing. All this stuff, all the research I was doing was just based on magazines I could acquire at the time. It wasn't like these magazines were carried so much in the library either.
Cinefix and stuff.
No. And there wasn't anything in the libraries.
Also, Cinefix was Fangoria was one that was hard for my parents to get for me for a while, because it brought up moral dilemmas. We weren't exactly like hardcore Christians, but we started out that way.
Yeah.
So for them to ease up and then let me get that, because of the fact that there was all this demonic stuff, and it was the monsters and blood, but it was the making of side of that. Now there was a lot of it that was the revelry and celebration of gore and whatever, and that's hard. I think it would be hard for me as a parent to let my kids want
It's
to
hard for me now to kind of suggest that stuff to my kids. I remember having to sneak out and go out to I grew up in the mountains and rural. I had to sneak out of my house, hike 3 miles through the woods to the nearest convenience store to get Fangoria when my dad wasn't looking.
Yeah, I was I grew up in Sacramento before living in Santa Rosa, and I was kind of a latchkey kid. My mom worked, my dad worked, but they were divorced, and so my brother and I would be home by ourselves for hours before my mom would come home. And I remember going over to a friend's house with my friends after school when I was about 10 to go watch a VHS copy of Alien, to see the scene, the scene, the chest burster scene.
Yeah.
And I had never seen it. And we watched it, and you could back it up and watch it again. And even as 10-year-old kids, we wanted to see it, but we must have backed it up like 15 times just to watch it. And I still remember how we'd go like, oh, but then it was like, you'd start to scrutinize it after you see it a couple times, just to know when the shot would happen, and to see the transitions and even the adjustment from the body sitting on the table, and you realize there's a false bottom. But it was all that. How do they do this? How do they do this? Everybody else is, how gross, let's watch it again. But I was one of the
That's
kids
VHS era.
Yeah,
that's VHS. I've ruined VHS. I ruined our copy of Star Wars.
Oh
because
yeah,
I would back it up so many times watching the stormtrooper hit his head on the door.
Yeah, I think also we all had Star Wars off of the few times it was shown on television. So everybody that had Star Wars on VHS, it had commercials in it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Blocky cutouts of commercials if you knew how to do it at the time of recording.
I'd pause it, and then you'd miss something, and you'd get your mom to do it, and she'd totally mess it up, and you'd get mad. You'd have to wait till next Christmas for it to come out, and every Christmas they showed it.
Right. I try to impress that on my kids now, or even people that I work with that are just coming into the business. It's like the availability of what you can get media-wise on the internet or streaming is incredible. And we never had it. Yeah, we tell them about the TV guide. We tell them about the TV guide.
Watched it when it was on.
Yeah, exactly. Or it was never on again, and they just can't fathom it. It's like it's a Rosetta Stone of media availability. It's just.
And there were certain movies that they would continuously show because like Turner had owned them or something, but then there were some movies that I think like inspired me, and I want to ask, did they inspire you guys to do specific, like I think it was Flash Gordon, is horrible effects,
but
groundbreaking. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I would say horrible, but at the same time, when I had those magazines, the models were the same size as what they were doing with motion control. So it told me that there was a method behind this madness. Yeah. That at the same time that Ming the Merciless's ship is crashing into the ground, or Flash is trying to break up the wedding, and they're crashing that ship into the ground, it looks like toys. And it looks, it looks like the smoke is so bad it looks like the first strike of a match. Yeah, it's out of scale. It's all that stuff. It's like the globby drops of water in Godzilla scale. But
so that's exactly what I wanted to ask.
Yeah,
because watching that let me know that holy smokes, these things are done with toys that I could make or play with myself.
Right.
And that actually got me into it, because until then, Star Wars was just like, this is incredible. This is real to me. Right. But then Flash Gordon came out like 3 years later, and I thought, I could make this.
Oh yeah, it was. I felt that way when Dune came out too, because it was one of those where the special effects were after what had been done in Return of the Jedi, and those still hold up among the top effects, I think, of any space battle. The flying dynamics in that battle scene are incredible. But when you see Dune come out, and it's got a lot of chunky, odd perspective matte paintings, I don't know where the discerning eye is. Who do you give credit to, and who do you say, nice try? I don't want to say who's doing bad and who's doing good, but there's definitely a discerning eye. And
so there's a definite job description between the production designer and then and say maybe the creative director on some given
and definitely the
scene.
producer who wants to go, we're done, we got the shot, who doesn't care because it costs whatever to get it right next time, you know.
And then you've got the special effects supervisor who is like, yeah, we're going to do this. And you're like, that's janky, man.
Yeah, it's janky,
You
but
just
that's
like-
also one shot in his giant schedule of what has to get done. So I get where they have to cut the line, but back then there's techniques that were favored that were older school. Like when like we're talking about Star Wars and Superman, I definitely got the impression from watching the scenes when it's the Golden Gate Bridge is collapsing. And you can see the cars and they shake around, or the dam's breaking. This goes into scale effects.
Yeah.
Where the dam's breaking and it opens up, and it, to me, at the end, I was into water balloons and hose fights in Sacramento. It was hot, so it looked just like a hose was opened up. So it gave away the scale. Whenever you see physical water, that is one of the things that back in the day during miniature effects, they used to work really hard to achieve with misters and even substituting alcohol because it's got a finer droplet size.
Yeah, it's not as
yeah, so it was like those were the kind of things that gave away scale. I mean, they're physics lessons in themselves. It's pretty amazing.
Really are.
But also the photographic techniques behind them.
Yeah, you have to use a specific lens and things like that.
Yeah.
So, so those were the movies that inspired you and you got you into this. How did you decide I'm going to make a lifestyle out of this? Oh, sorry, did I freeze?
No, not at all.
It's like that stupid frame. Did so okay, sorry again. Those are the movies and things that inspired you. How did you decide I want to make a living out of this?
Oh, a living out of it. Well, I knew I lived near Industrial Light and Magic, and again, that book, that I never worked there. In all my time, I've never worked there. I have several friends that have, and by the time I started to get into effects, I had an opportunity, but I had already moved here. I'd been down here for under a year when I got an offer, but I realized that was an achievable goal, and I was a horrible student as a kid. I had horrible grades. I did not apply myself to the curriculum, all that kind of thing. I drew in the margins. I was that kid. I did not take school seriously. I did not perform to what my tests suggested I'd be able to perform at scholastically. And it didn't hold my interest. And I was always drawing and sculpting. I was always placed in elevated art classes or advanced art classes because I could always draw and I could always sculpt. So that was my in. But also I hated painting bowls of fruit. I didn't want to draw the raw perspective idea from. Once I learned how to draw perspective, I realized I wanted to do banking flying craft and not focus on the perspective line because I knew that wasn't true. And I got into an open debate with my teacher about it and all this. Brought in Air Force pictures and said, how would this apply to your perspective thing? And I get in trouble for it. I was a rebellious little kid. And of course now I have a rebellious little kid. So that's the karmic just of it all. Drives me crazy. And I do the thing where it's like, because I said so. But at the time I was that kid. Let's see. So I started to go into junior college. I graduated with just barely passing grade point averages. And then I went into junior college because I kind of had to. I didn't know exactly how I was going to get into what I wanted to do, but I knew it was close and local. And eventually a movie came by that one of my friends at the time went and got a PA job on it. So I immediately followed and went and got a PA job. And for a month, or almost 2 months, I worked on a movie that is actually a Mystery Science Theater 3000. It was called, at the time, it was called The Quest of the Delta Knights. And I think that's what it was called. But David Warner was in it. And it was a really low budget medieval movie. and it was in Sonoma County, and me and a few other guys got hired to, or not hired, but eventually we got hired. But we were just sort of the town lackeys, but knew everything about the town and worked really hard on it because we wanted to work in movies. And I worked at a movie theater at the time, and I set it up so that the production could run dailies out of the movie theater in the morning, right? Because we all wanted to work on movies everywhere I was. You always surround your people with your kindred foe, and everybody, not everybody, but a lot of the people at the movie theaters, we were all wannabe filmmakers ourselves, and that was easy to want to accommodate. So we did that, and then after that, I got a real Jones for working on the show on shows. I remember going to my first movie set and being part of it, not knowing what the hell was going on at all. It looked like chaos. It was like 90 people standing around and 10 working, and I didn't understand how that worked or why it was okay, and how they could call it professional.
Like all three of us
Yeah.
started nodding.
What is going on here? And then you realize, oh, it's a rotating, what I've come to learn and be part of and understand and know how to work the ecology of is it's a rotating pit crew. Everybody's got their job. Of those, the 10 people that you see working, each one of them is the head of another 10-person crew. And everybody's just waiting for their call to get in, make everything beautiful for the moment, and jump out and let the shot happen. And there's a lot of standing around, but I didn't get it at the time. Yeah. But it was a huge educational experience. I loved the job. I made a lot of friends. I found a lot of couches to crash on when I wanted to come to LA. And it was that kind of thing where it was the circus blew through town, and I wanted to run off with them. And I didn't. I was up there for another year, but I found out. But suddenly I had the drive and the gumption, to follow through some phone calls. I'd always called ILM, but it was back when this would have been in 1990s when I graduated high school. So there was nothing going on Star Wars wise, and sci-fi films themselves were not a big deal at the time. Video game movies weren't being made, comic book movies weren't being made, or they were horrible. But I called, I got a number, I got a hold of Chris Wayless Inc. or CWI. And I knew them from from their work on Gremlins and The Fly and Enemy Mine. Mm-hmm. And I gave them a call, and I called at just the right time. And they were like, well, we're looking for some young blood. Why don't you go ahead and come on in? And so I did. I couldn't believe it. I brought a plastic crate full of stuff that I had made that was all Kit Bash models and Super Sculpey pieces and friendly plastic masks that I had made, and I brought them in, and they looked at them, they checked them out, and they kind of giggled, and it was people that I had read about in all these magazines that I was now meeting, and they said, look, well, we're going to do something in December, and we need a couple guys. Do you want to be part of it? And I was like, yeah. And then then I remember, this is huge. They were like, well, what's your rate? And I was like,
whatever you
I
would pay me.
I gotta at least make minimum wage, I was probably like 20.
That's always the worst. You're like, I don't want to ask for too much.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want to ask for too little.
Yeah, you have no faith in yourself professionally. At the same time, your dream has just sort of, returned a ping back, an echo back to your interest, and now I just wanted to be part of it. So the guy was, he's passed on, but his name was Jim Isaacs. And he's directed a lot of horror movies, but he worked with Chris Wayless as a supervisor a lot. But he was like, well, okay, tell you what, how about $8 an hour? Does that sound good? And I was like, yeah, that's great. And it seemed like this was in 1991 or 2. And I was 20, so $8 an hour back then seemed like a great opportunity. And I did it, and I started as an apprentice for an amusement park that was done for Osaka, Japan. It was a temporary amusement park called Dino Alive by Kyoto Models, actually. And there was a guy, I remember his name, and this is when I learned the difference between hi and hi. But his name was Soichi Miyawake. And he was the son of a guy that ran Kyoto Models. and
Right.
they were huge, and they did a lot of their work out of paper clay, but they were doing in a temporary amusement park, and they had all Dynamation was doing a lot of the dinosaurs, but the grand finale was to be a Tyrannosaurus that had mortally wounded and stepped on a Triceratops mother as the baby kind of looked on and had to run away. And it was to be a 2-minute loop that repeated for 6 months, 10 hours a day. And I was an apprentice on that, and I got to do a little bit of everything. And
Oh wow.
and I worked with guys that I had read about in magazines and seen their work. And what I come to realize on that job is that it was the guys that worked at ILM were working for Chris Wallace, and if they didn't work there, they worked at a place called Colossal Pictures or Mount World Digital. And that's when I started to get a sense of the idea of freelance work. And I didn't understand it at the time, and I thought what I had was a job. And then after this job went for 9 months, and it was great. It was engrossing, and I learned a lot, and I was feeling pretty confident about applying at other places. And then suddenly everybody was like, well, the job's going to end. Where are you going to go? What are you going to do? I was like, what? What are you talking about? The job's going to end. He's like, yeah, it's over. So that was a bit of terror. And then they were like, well, what are you going to do when a job ends? And I was like, I don't know, maybe I'll go back to school. And then right away the guys were like, oh yeah, what are you going to go to school for? What do you want to do? And I was like, this. Well, then why do you want to go to school? You said you hated school. And I was like, these guys were really patient with me. I was a 21-year-old kid when I worked with them, and they were seasoned effects guys. And they put up with me and listened to all my questions, all my hopes, all my dreams, all my thoughts, and all my opinions. And they were really patient with me. I did not realize that at the time, but have come to appreciate their level of patience with my rookie ass at that time. They were awesome. And this was guys like Danny Wagner, Howie Weed, Wim Van Thillo, John Berg, and a lot of them were guys that I had read about. There was Carol Bauman. She's the one that taught me about Magic Sculpt, and she was using it for toy work. A lot of them did side work for toy companies.
Mm-hmm.
And
Still do a lot of them.
there was so many people there that were really patient with me. And again, I whenever those kids come in on the crew, I always like I owe it in some sort of time traveler karma fashion. I owe it to be incredibly patient and open and listen and share what I can and steer them where I can. And it's one of those things I never forget. I've actually talked to Chris Wallace a couple of times since then. And once was the last Monster Palooza, and it was really good to catch up with him. And I was telling him, like, thank you for being so patient with me. Because I used to just like tell him my
Facebook.
He's awesome.
Everybody froze. Yeah. I was talking to him on Facebook not too long ago and was asking him, because I've never met him, but Facebook, it connects
puts you in connection with everybody.
Yeah. And so we've been friends on Facebook for, I don't know, a couple of years, friends on Facebook for years. But I was going to ask him about this. I was afraid to ask him before we got too many people in, because he's still got a lot of clout.
He does, but it's also what gives him his clout is his absolute passion for all this stuff, and it always has been.
Oh man,
there was a time, and it's been over 20 years, so it's not like there's an NDA behind it. But I remember him talking about, and I think he had pitched this to I want to say Joe Dante, but he had it was so fun to listen to him talk about his ideas. He had directed The Fly 2 by then, and then The Vagrant. And then they had some sort of falling out with Brooks Pictures at the time. And he was talking, he was always wanted to do more filmmaking. And he had talked about his idea for the remake of, there's a monster movie called Shrew Island, but it's like one of the classic crappy B movies of all time. But he described how it would happen and how it would open, and the the scenes, and he was just sort of like telling us, and we were all like really excited. I was like, this is, why the fuck don't we make this now? You know, not understanding how it was going to be, but it was his enthusiasm and commitment to an idea or an imaginative scene was always so, you know,
it's inspiring,
contagious. It's like there's a line in Tucker, the movie. It's an old movie, but where it's like,
yeah.
Good God, what's his name? He won the
Jeff Bridges.
No. Martin Landau. Marty Landau.
Oh, yeah.
Talking about how their dreams are contagious. Excuse me, I'm getting sniffles.
Yeah.
But, actually, let me blow my nose real quick. I'm getting sniffles.
Okay.
I'll start picking up where it was.
I wanted to ask if you've got advice for younger kids who, I mean, those kids that go in, they're like, a lot of them are afraid to ask, you know, those questions because they think, oh, they're stupid, or, you know, I don't want to look like I'm green around the, you know, I'm like, you're 21, man. You look green every time.
You're gonna look green no matter what. Yeah, I'd say ask your, you know, to the people that get in, I would say do your job, pay attention, do what's expected of you. And as you do, ask your questions. Once you prove you're not a screw up or a regret, you know, just feel free to start asking your questions. But know your boundaries. You'll never find them until you bounce against the walls of what's acceptable. I've always felt that way. You are also in a room full of black sheep. You are in a misfit island. Nobody there got there an easy way or a predictable path. I don't know. Maybe that's changed lately, but I haven't been a new kid in a while. But I would definitely say that you are in a room full of black sheep. Everybody got there in a different way, different means, has different likes. There's a lot of people that have since grown up with the internet that have all the access. That to me is pretty enviable. If I look at what I think people have with YouTube tutorials and how to do stuff, and even companies like Reynolds or all the Smooth On products, having people that are whether known hobbyists or professionals using the material and showing you the shortcuts. Before there used to be, there was the GM foam ad in Fangoria magazine in the back, and it looked like Larry from the Three Stooges in like a line drawing. And it's a GM foam latex, and somewhere that's obtainable. You should put it up. It's hilarious, and it should be a cool T-shirt. But between that and a few other things I remember seeing in Cinemagic, there was never any sort of source material for how to get this or obtain what you needed to know to do this kind of work.
So tell us exactly what you do at your job.
So primarily, my bread and butter over the last since the late '90s, and my steady employment in the effects work has become special effects fabrication. I do a lot of foam fabrication, and I do a lot of armor fabrication, which has been great in the years now. I'll do a lot of creature work, but I've also, if there's a leather job, I'll get a call. And I do a lot of leather armor, and I do a lot of, for example, I've done some stuff for Marvel that was leather work. I did Whiplash, the Mickey Rourke character in Iron Man 2. I did the leather work for that character based off of 3 Ryan Meinerding production paintings. And that was really cool because there was nobody really overriding me or telling me how to do it. They knew I could do the leather work, and they gave me 3 paintings. And I made a rough one, and then took that and fitted on Mickey Rourke, and then I made 2 more that were refined versions. One was a stunt, one was a hero. The difference between stunt and hero is one's got to contain more detail, and the other has to be. It's that sort of like, can you see? The detail has to hold up if you're jumping on 1 foot and covering 1 eye and doing this kind of thing. It's got to take a beating. That's the stunt version.
Right.
But for what we made, it was really the same thing. I just had to notate that it was the difference. So there was 2 more versions made, and then Captain America Winter Soldier, I got to do a rebuild of the first, it was like his World War II look. So I got to do the redo of the leather so that the ears were more comfortable. And it was a whole process in doing templates. And I was at Legacy Effects for both those projects. And I got to do a lot of leather work on commercials there. So they really give credit to a Legacy. They trusted me and gave me a lot of running room on that. And they just I had done a lot of stuff fast for them. And they just trusted me and let me have at it. And I did have help along the way. There's none of these projects that I've done for shows have been a solo project in any means. This is always part of a group effort. So, but these were standout projects for me. Let's see, what was the other stuff? So look, my main thing has been fabrication, and I get a lot of calls anytime there's robotic stuff that has to be worn on a person, sometimes puppets, or armor. So hardline fabrication, but also that means me working with the mold shop closely with pieces that have come from, whether it's sculpted or 3D printed, and there's an output that's been molded and then cast in various materials, whether it's hard or flexible urethanes. And now we have to put it and drape it over somebody. I have a bag of this kind of material that I call the sample bag. But it's in my garage. If you guys give me 5 minutes, I got a whole tour of stuff.
Cool.
Yeah. Can you ask Garrett? Well, if it's photos of stuff, you can always send photos to me later, and I'll just stick them.
I don't know if I have photos of all this stuff, but I'll tell you what I have come to do is every time I have an interview at a place I haven't worked, I bring my old school portfolios. I got two. I have one that's my artwork, and then one that's my professional work for film, commercials, and that kind of thing. And then I bring that sample bag, and the sample bag is just sort of a show and tell of tried and true techniques that worked out. So
fantastic. Hey, I got a question for you real quick.
Absolutely.
We're in this weird place, and I get this too because I work in animation. We have young people coming in that have never drawn traditionally. They only have ever drawn on the computer.
Yeah.
And I've seen you sculpt traditionally. Do you sculpt as well digitally?
I've done some ZBrush. I've taken classes at, do you know David Igo?
Yeah.
Okay, I took his class at, what's it called? Not Applied Artists, but whatever class he was teaching for a while. I took that, and that was really informative, and I like it a lot. And I knew it was, I enjoy it. I do, but I haven't used it in at least 4 years. My interests are really tactile. Yeah. And I don't know. I know you're supposed to be able to upgrade it, but I have not upgraded it. Yeah.
I still have the foundational one as well. I think you do too, James.
I think you can get ZBrush Core.
That's what I have.
Yeah, and it's like 1/7 the price.
Yeah.
And you can do anything in it except.
But I think as a traditional sculptor, for us it feels like we can almost feel the clay that we're pushing around.
Absolutely. And I got to give it credit as an actual art or something, because I get lost in it, just like I would if I was drawing, or just like I would if I was pushing clay.
Yeah.
Right. I hours go by and I'm like, what? It feels like 10 minutes. I know I've had a good time. It satisfied me. And it's not quite tactile except for the use of the pen, but I do feel like there's a sense of that I am building something in 3D there. And there's definitely a part of me that knows I should have gone into that years ago. I should have given that hardcore attention, but there's also this kind of side of me that I can't get rid of because I like the tactile sense, because I can control a pen over paper or clay with tools that I like to do it. I'm not the best at that, but I can convey my idea. And one thing that the digital kids don't have on me in a meeting, in a roundtable session, is sitting at a dry erase board or with just an open pen and paper. They can draw their stuff and say, I'll send you an email, and then maybe put it up if somebody can do it. But I can draw on a napkin at a bar in front of a director and push it across. And that's a fine medium. Ballpoint pen on a nearly wet napkin and still conveying an idea is an art in itself.
So many projects have been pitched that way.
Yeah. Yeah, you can sell a lot of ideas that way.
Yeah,
So,
they have indeed. I think there's the elevator pitch, the elephant pitch, and the
I'd never do an elevator pitch. I can't. You might as well hold somebody hostage, right? I mean,
right.
I can't imagine that going well.
My wife and I got a chance to have lunch with the development execs over at Disney, and we thought it was just a lunch. And they said, "Well, you got ideas, right? Go ahead, pitch them." And they're like, okay. And
Nice.
so we just right there over barbecue, we're sitting there having lunch and pitching ideas.
Now, is that the Disney exec thing where NDA, you're talking to somebody from Disney and any idea they like becomes Disney's after
Yeah,
you exhaled it?
I'm gonna strangle you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it really was. It's that thing where they buy. This sounds bad, but they buy you. They buy the idea of working with you because at any moment they can say, "Oh, well, we already have something like that in development." Thank you so much.
And we're Disney. Why wouldn't we?
That's part of the pitch,
That's why I remember I worked at Imagineering for a while. I actually got laid off from Imagineering, and I worked on the Tokyo Disney Sea Park. I worked on the Sinbad ride. And I started out sculpting rock work out of foam, and
so
then
you were here when I was here.
What's that?
I was here during. That's why I came out here, is because I was out here for Tokyo Disney Sea.
Okay, I never went to Japan for that. I only worked here in the valley, off of Vineland. And
Right.
let's see, but we did get to the point where we had to make a crashed boat. And then I did this sculpted wood grain look that they like, and we did to do another boat. And then we did a bigger boat, and then a Chinese junk. And then it was just they loved the way we did the wood grain, and a lot of their lifers couldn't do it or didn't know what we were doing. And then we got given the chance to sculpt the ride vehicle. So I sculpted the ride vehicle for Tokyo Disney Sea, which is cool to me, but at the same time, it's a giant thing to Imagineers. I didn't understand what a big deal it was. And it was just a job to me, but to them it was I crossed a lot of boundaries and I shouldn't have been doing it kind of thing. I never succumbed to the mouse hierarchy or ideals. I like a lot of stuff that's Disney, but they've always been, since I entered the business, people were like, "Oh, when you work for the mouse," or they'd even call it Mauschwitz. It's that.
That was me.
Yeah. Everybody knows these nicknames.
It's such a big company that to get things done and to move things along without having that kind of feel of just unbelievable stagnation because too many people have so many ideas, they just say there's got to be a cutoff.
Right. And there's people that understand. I mean, that's one of the places where you see politics. Politics are always ugly, even in politics. But you can see it in the film industry. And there's a lot of times where you see the politics actually become the gatekeeper for the creative ideas. And you see a lot of times, and this is my humble opinion as a creative type, right? Creative versus management side. I'm on creative. I'm not a good business person. But I see a lot of times where people hear absolutely great ideas and sort of put them in their own back pocket to use for later. And you can get easily shifted out of the play of it.
You and I were talking about that one day.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
It's just, it's wacky.
Yeah. It's that double-edged sword of you have to pitch it in order to get a company to back it and make it.
But there's also, it's like none of us are lawyers, and there's a barrage of sycophantic type people that was, more than respect the hierarchy, they kind of worship it. And I don't see that as being in the modality of a creative type, but it's easy to fall prey to give a good creative idea and somebody runs off with it.
There was I don't remember if it was in the making of or if it was in one of the books or whatever from The Incredibles, and Brad Bird was having a creative brainstorm to, roundtable talk with his designers, and the guy who had done one of the original Mr. Incredible sculpts, he'd done a maquette of him, and they were like, well, let's make him bald, or and I don't remember what it was, but he just got up and left, and he didn't have pretty words when he left. But the number of ideas that go back and forth, and you crush one guy's idea, or you hear just enough from another one that you take it and you run with it yourself, and then they're like, that was my game.
Yeah.
It happens so often.
Oh, somebody can re-describe what exactly you said or presented them in a drawing and act as if because they've described their version of what you're presenting, that they've now taken it and made it theirs. It happens all the time.
We used to
pretty disgusting.
I don't want to discourage any of our listeners from actually coming out and sharing their ideas.
You have to. You have to.
You do have to. I would advise that you always keep your crown jewel in your back pocket. There's stuff I'd love to share with other people that I don't share. I'm 48 now, but I've still got bigger dreams than just being the worker VFX guy. I'd love to be a filmmaker and present things, but at the same time, the ones that I've held on to the longest that I think would be good, I don't want to just present out there, because I do feel that they've kept, I feel like I'm pretty picky creatively, and it takes a lot to keep me completely engaged, but I've got a couple ideas that I keep returning to creatively, and they've only gotten more expansive in their worlds. And I don't want to present everything on Facebook or Instagram or social media, because it's been, it's so easily rifled through. This is me. This is Bruce D. Mitchell, the Conceptual Executioner, right? This is one of my first masks that I made, and I put this out there. I give a lot of these out. They're kind of my business card, or one of my business cards.
Got one of those stickers.
Awesome, man. But I've talked to people that were like, hey, what is that, when they see it on my shirt? And they're all, no, I've got that. It's on my, and these are art director types. These are big boys that I've talked to. I know their work. I've known it for years. They're all, that's on my vision board. You're that guy? And it's like, I know if you look me up on Pinterest and you look up the stuff that I've fallen into, I'm on a lot of boards. And there's stuff that I see come up that I know I didn't invent the kind of look that I indulge in the most, whether it's that post-apocalyptic or kind of postmodern anthropological man kind of mask-wearing stuff. But I know from the people that I've talked to that have come across it, that realize what I have made, that I know I'm on the zeitgeist of what is being created or what is being looked for.
You are the name of a lot of that kind of steampunk Mad Max.
The crossover, it's neither one. So
yeah, it's neither one of them, because you're like, there are so many people who are like, they like one or the other or both, and you have taken this this mask wearing kind of like post-apocalyptic, living on the savage land, this look that I'll talk to other designers, and they're like, I really like this kind of look, and I'm like, yeah, that's Bruce's, and they're like, what, who? And I'm like, right. Yeah, Bruce Mitchell. Look him up, Bruce D. Mitchell, and they're like, this is nuts, and like that look you've created. I'm not okay. I'll say yes, you haven't created it, but you really did.
No, it's. I'd like to say that I discovered a vibe that I feel like a lot of other people have already explored throughout various times. And I mean, since...
Yeah, but you put your own stamp on it.
Absolutely. Really, and you have to stay relevant within it. But it's like, I don't feel like I'm treading any ground that Mobius didn't discover. Mm-hmm. And he's a big influence on me. Mobius and God, Juan Jimenez, he just passed away. I wish I had met him.
Wait,
Oscar Ciccione, a lot of the guys that were in heavy metal.
Oh, yeah.
And also the Japanese guys. And we were talking earlier about Takeya Takayuki, Terada, Nirasawa from Creature Core. Look, he made the true cross between post-apocalyptic and the work that Giger was doing, in my opinion. They made it incredibly tangible, where Giger had this sort of alien landscapes that looked like, truly like a saxophone. It was a landscape. Nirasawa populated it, but also in a hybrid world of our own. So these are guys that I took cues from. There's also a lot of industrial stuff. Also, like, I don't know what to call it, but there was a look that there was a guy, he was this comes out of British filmmaking, but I'm ruining his name right now, but he did Highlander and Highlander 2, which is an awful movie, but it looks fantastic style-wise.
Highlanders.
My wife and I joke, Highlander 1.
There should be only one.
Perfect in its imperfection. And then Highlander 2 came out, and we're like, no.
This is what, kids, this is what cocaine on film looks like. It's just like, it's so crazy. But there's a very wild industrial style that was also explored in the Wild Boys music video of Duran Duran at the time. But it was like this heavy metal, low budget, industrial road warrior kind of look. I don't know what to call that, but it's like there's artists that I really like that really know the material. There's guys like Rick Berry or Phil Hale or even Ashley Wood that they're comic book and graphic artists that come out understanding this world. They just speak the language naturally. And those are the guys that I've always kind of gone back and forth between, like the film designers and film special effects people to the art world. I've tried to stay in my interest, take a step back and look at the tangents that I really like. And there's absolutely a connecting thread. I don't know what to call that thread, but it's a style, and the style gets renamed all the time, but it's definitely got this kind of industrial, post-apocalyptic, what was it? Not Neolithic, it was postmodern, but there's a vibe to it.
New, lithic meaning stone.
Yeah, exactly. That's where I was going on that. I was like, that's the Raiders speech.
No, I was like, I don't know if anybody else is going to get that reference, but I'm sure a few of our listeners will.
No, but the things that you're drawn to speak to your experience, your upbringing, your taste.
Yeah, it's sort of my own regurgitation on what I've visually consumed. But
I did a class with Don Hahn, who was the producer over at Disney. And his whole class was the best steal from the best. And he was showing how Picasso took from the African masks. He was inspired by African masks.
I've got a lot of books on African masks.
Yeah. The Star Wars theme was one note off from this old silent movie back. I wish I knew the name of it, but it's off by one note. And he played the song for us. So, nothing exists in a vacuum.
Yeah.
People are always quoting others and then making it their own. And, what you're drawn to.
People should be afraid to do that.
No, I don't. Definitely. And there's I'd say one thing that I noticed, and this is probably about a dozen years ago. The school I was always interested in going to because I always liked what they were putting out. I would have never been. My grades were shit. I would have never gotten a scholarship. I could have never afforded it. But it was the Art Center School of Design in Pasadena.
Yeah,
I've always felt that they really had a cutting edge program, and a lot of artists that I like a lot have a running tangent through there. And I've met him a few times, and it was cool because he was familiar with my stuff. But I met Neville Page.
Oh yeah,
and he's got a lot of cool stuff. I know he came out of there because there's a book called The Skillful Huntsman, and I think it was based on a class that he did, but it was to conceptually reimagine fairy tales and to use a sort of, I'd say, modern film technique to visualize it. And it's a book I have, and it's fantastic. And I liked it for the silhouettes and the way they taught the silhouettes, but also the earth tones and color schemes that they threw. The Skillful Huntsman. Yeah. Okay. It's really cool.
Yeah. Oh, I like his. Yeah. I just did some of his.
Neville's stuff is
really cool.
I'll be honest, I'm 50-50 on what he produces, but I'm 100% on what he wrangles as a leader. I think the stuff that he's able to bring, I think he can really corral a table full of creatives very well. But when I see his own work, I'll like some of his organic creatures he did for like Cloverfield or some of the Star Trek stuff. his monsters, but not all the designs. But that's true of most designers too. But I see him as being one of the guys that is a very good businessman at it, but that can also technically run a crew. I think he's really good at it.
I'm curious. I want to go off on the business side as well, but I really want to ask you, like, this constant trend that runs through alien design, to me, looks like just a bunch of angry half demon people.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, that's an alien. And I'm like, what's none of that's creative. And Neville Page's stuff over here, I'm like, it looks alien, right?
Yeah, well, sure. He did, I don't know if he did Covenant, but I know he did Prometheus.
Yeah,
that
man.
Yeah.
I love the production design on that.
Likewise, but what a shit movie.
Oh my God.
I didn't want to say that part. I didn't want to say that.
I'll tell you a quick story. I was on Phineas and Ferb, and the creator of the show said, "Oh, David Lindelof is coming in," and I said, "Great! I got a bone to pick with him. Bring him by my office." I never saw him. They never brought him by. No, I never got the chance to talk to him because I had played my cards too early. I should have waited and said, "Oh, bring him by. I'd love to meet him," and then hit him off for Lost and Prometheus.
Yeah. No, he goes way in the weeds. The one show he did that I thought was good was the one, what was it called? The where everybody starts disappearing.
Hey,
or everybody disappeared one.
Wait, can everybody go back like 1 minute?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Okay, so you're on, and David
Lindelof.
Yes. So long story short, he did not come to my office because I had played my cards too early. And so they steered him around my office, knowing that I probably would have given him an earful.
Oh, man.
I got to give anybody that makes it a big dose of credit for knowing how to play the game. There's plenty of things. I'm this far. I'm not where I imagined I'd be when I was that big loudmouth 20-year-old, but at the same time, I'm happy to be in the middle of it where I am. But there's guys I see that got the game, and I don't know if it's the way they word it or their cards that they hold back, but it's a game and they play it. They played it well.
Well, you had said something earlier about this job being we're all kind of black sheep.
Yeah, for sure.
There are a lot of people in the business who will rub you the wrong way. And so you really do have to have a specific temperament to be in this. I mean, you have to be able to take your work being shot down. You have to be able to take an art director, totally ripping your stuff up. That being said, you also have to be able to keep your mouth shut. And I know a lot of new guys coming in.
It's a skill you will have to learn the hard way, maybe. And I've learned it. Finish off this bottle of wine here.
I was at a party and I was talking about a show. I won't say what show. And I said, "Yeah, God, the designs on that were horrible." And I said, "Oh, hey, what's your name?" And he says, "Blah, blah, blah." I said, "What did you do?" He goes, "I did the designs on that show."
Can you bleep stuff out later, or do you not want to do that?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, you can say it.
Well, and it's funny because 20 years later, my wife is working with this same person, and I'd see him in the office and go.
Well, there's also things I've learned or times there's a lot of times that I'm not a particularly religious person, but I do believe I like the idea, and I've come to believe in the idea of a pantheon of fates that sort of look at you, and if you amuse them enough, they will put stuff in your way just to see how you react. And these are opportunities, amazing opportunities. A lot of them are good, a lot of them are bad, and they are all exactly what you want. And they throw you in and they see how you handle stuff. And there's a lot of times I've looked back and thought, even the ones that weren't like karmically good or bad that I opted not to be part of, there was some that were like, that was an amazing opportunity and you just didn't handle that well. But that was a moment where careers were made. But
yeah,
I used to live in Hollywood, and I was a 26-year-old, but I would go to parties and I had friends, and we went to a party once for one of my friend of a friend who was house sitting for somebody. And then it turned out that it was, he's a production designer. His name's Nigel Phelps. And he does really cool work. I think he worked with Anton first on the Tim Burton Batman Gotham City look. But what I recognized that he had in this room we were hanging out in, that this house sitting place, it's long enough. Nobody's going to get in trouble over this. But it was Alien Resurrection production models for the Betty, which was that cool drop ship kind of thing. So it was there, but it was made out of like battleship model parts and some foam sculpted stuff in a World War II plane. And I started to look around and I realized and I had a production design book, but it was one of those things where, and this is more philosophical than any kind of educational, but it's life experience. But it was one of those things where I had just been learning about this guy. I was fascinated with this guy's work for a long time. And suddenly I'm in this guy's den, right? His computer workspace with some of the books I have, some of the books I don't have, but I'm in this guy's nerve center, right? His creative nerve center in this cool Hollywood house. And I always wonder, like, if I had like reached out and said, "Hey, my name's so and so. This is my work." Showed him what I had at the time. Would that have worked out? But there's been plenty of times where things like that have happened, where when I think back on it, I don't feel like I played the hand I was dealt. But that is also that's life. But it's also showbiz. But there's been a lot of things like that in showbiz that have just totally spun my wheels, like coulda, shoulda, woulda, those kind of moments. But yeah, I hung out. I got drunk and high, and Neville Page, or not Neville Page, but what was his name? Nigel Phelps's study. His personal inner sanctum, his fortress of solitude. I hung out with whoever was house sitting at the time.
Fortress of solitude. That room that you're in now, you've got stuff like that now, where you're working on that kind of stuff.
Sure, but stuff's all mine's got the potential, but it's all personal work. There's nobody backing this yet, other than other creative types that I share this with.
Right.
I guess is why we're here.
Haven't.
Question, I guess, because this is something we all have to deal with, and people that listen to this are going to have to think about marketing yourself. I mean, you've been in the industry a long time, so people know your name, they know your work. Do you still have to go out and search for projects, or do you hunt down the ones that you want? Or
I try to hunt down the ones I want, but I usually always get a call. And then also there's one of the greatest jobs I took last year, the contender of this year, was a job that I had originally made fun of. But it was the job itself turned out to be so much fun. But it was The Masked Singer.
Oh yeah,
if you know the show. Yeah, I don't watch the show, but I worked on it. I did a few masks. I don't know where they're at in the show, but I can tell you I made Tony Hawk's mask.
Oh yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, that elephant thing.
Yeah.
The coolest part about that is it's made out of cardboard. It's skinned and a smooth-on product, but it's made out of cardboard. And he came in once, and so we got to meet Tony Hawk, who actually rode his skateboard into Stupid Buddy builds.
Yeah, he did. That's awesome.
He came in and we showed him, like, hey, we're working with these skateboard helmets, and I think it's not 3/8, but it's a specific not motorcycle, but skateboard branded helmet. And he goes, oh yeah, they sponsor me. I've got one that they make for me, so I don't have to put the chin strap on because I don't like to wear it during competition. I'll go get it. It's in my car. And so he got in his skateboard and went off and got his helmet that we incorporated into the mask itself, the big cardboard elephant mask.
Oh, that's cool.
But that job itself was what made it so fun. Is so often we're working with clients and crew, and everything's got to look super real. But now we are working on something where the idea had to be carried through, and it had to be comfortable for somebody who's not comfortable wearing costumes to be able to wear it and sing. But at the same time, there was a lot of loose interpretation that was left up to the artist to make. There was a lot of people, most of them I'd worked with before, on some on the Dark Crystal, the Netflix Dark Crystal, and then other shows too. But it was a lot of fun, and it was one of the most encouraging crews I've been on. Everybody came from a different background. Everybody had a different style. That's not something that always happens. A style of build. And then Ben Bayouth, he was the guy who's in charge of Buddy Builds. He just pretty much said, I think this fits your style. You should probably make this. And it would just sort of kind of nurture you to be able to make it. And by nurture, not necessarily, just get out of your way and make sure there was everything out of your way to be able to make it the best you thought you could make it while he thought you could make it. So it was the most creatively rewarding, even though the standards didn't have the expectation of a Marvel movie or a blockbuster film. It was a lot of fun.
Right. Very cool. We're about 2 hours in.
Okay. That was easy. Hey, can I show some stuff?
Yeah.
All right.
I wanted to ask, where's your man that you were working on something when we were talking earlier?
Oh yeah, let's see. He's right here.
That's really, really cool.
This is a guy. Now this is he's about yay big. I'd say it's about 10 inches, but it's made out of a Super Sculpey, the firm mixed with Super Sculpey regular, and I'm building him up. I gotta make his hands right. Well, it's the pink stuff that everybody's used to.
Right.
Now when I started this, it was originally I wanted to do this is gonna be rough and impressionistic, but it's actually got quite a lot of detail to it.
Yeah.
Let me adjust my lights.
Got some great shapes.
Thanks. And it's again, I'm huge into robots, and I'm trying to make them look industrial, but at the same time, I'd love them to look a little statue of David, but believe that this was mechanical parts. So I got to make his hands still, and then finish his head just a little bit. Let's see if we can catch some of the details that I've been throwing in there.
Nice. Oh, that's fantastic.
Very cool.
Thanks.
Very cool.
But this is a character I've been working on a while. I've actually got a short, and on my way to a feature for him. This is one of those like you hold your cards. So
you've got a bust of him as well, someplace, I think, don't you?
I do. In fact, I'll show you its current incarnation because it's being worked on now. It's part Bondo, parts, it's in the works. So that's this.
Oh, that's great.
That is so cool. Oh man, sorry for those of you.
This is a sculpt that there's been what we call this has had a waste mold done to it. A waste mold is you take your sculpture and it's not mechanically refined. So you do a waste mold of it. It's a silicone process.
Yeah.
And then you get a Bondo fiberglass resin mix going. And then from that, you sand it. You sand it to near mechanical perfection. So what I'm doing is I put this on where you see like the white areas. These are bits of styrene that I'm building up these planes specifically because I'm looking to make it just a little bit larger. This was sculpted over the life cast to somebody I intend to wear this for a short, but at the same time, I'm trying to provide a little more real estate on the inside. There's also the eyes were built off the eyes of the performer so that I can put false eyes inside of there. But this is, again, it's a character I've got much bigger plans for.
Ah, really cool.
That is very cool.
But
for those of you listening, I'm going to put links to photos in the show notes. So be sure to check it.
And anything that I've got on social media, especially Instagram or Facebook, you are totally welcome to use.
Oh, thanks.
Excellent.
Yeah, that kind of thing is important to see because you're not limiting yourself to a material, if it serves your process.
Right. And it's all about the process. It's really about what's the end goal of what and I could dial it back and still sell the concept, but at the same time, I've got my own standards, and I know that I'll be able to, for what I put in on the standards, I'll be able to carry out the visual idea a little bit further. And one of the ideas is this is a robot character, but I want to incorporate it between somebody wearing a suit and then puppetry aspects of it as well. So that I'd love to have a cast, and so when somebody goes to hit him, they actually haul off and punch one of the castings of this character. But at the same time, edit that, mix that with the guy that's wearing it to come back standing properly. So it's it'd be something that would chiropractically kill somebody, and then they stand back up into that position and go back to work, or as not work, but in action. Well, let me show you a couple of the masks. And this is the style that this harkens back to what I did with the Stan Winston School of Character Design. But this is, I would say, what I started to do as I started to engage in social media. So I would say that this is what I'm most known for. This is one of the few ones I have not sold, but at the same time, this has all the attributes and early attributes compared to what some of them have. Characters have made. This is made.
I'll take it.
I'll put it on here.
Oh, so cool.
That is good.
So
And
it's got
the goggles.
goggles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
I want that. I want it.
Just a little bit.
The combination of organics and mechanical, that's really sort of speaks to your style.
Oh, absolutely. I used to get people used to bring up Giger a lot. I don't know if you can hear me. Let me open this.
Yeah. Oh.
People used to bring up Giger a lot, and I never quite saw. I was always a big fan of Giger, but at the same time, I always felt that my stuff looked a little more Brahm Dark Age. If you know who Brahm is as an artist, his stuff.
I like knowing your stuff. I don't think Giger.
No.
Okay. Take this for what it is. When I see your stuff, I think of John Romita Jr.
Oh, wow. Yeah, he's a comic book artist.
Yeah. Like he uses continuity lines across the surface to define the forms. And
is it like cross hatching?
Yeah, like
sort of
cross contour.
He'll use lines in place of a shadow deformation.
Correct.
Where a shadow would cut something.
Yeah, and you get that beautiful striation on what would be an organic skin texture. That I think that becomes almost like a calling card for your stuff. Exactly like that. Yeah.
It's the dremeling. It's the using the one thing I've really liked about the epoxy sculpts, or the whether it's Abe's epoxy sculpt or Magic sculpt, is the ability to make something that would otherwise be like a prototype, right? But now I can make it, and this goggle assembly is 6 pieces. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the other side, the returning arm.
You showed us how you did that to an effect.
Yeah. And then I just lift it up. Yeah, exactly. And then down the middle, there's a line in the middle. This also goes into a lot of mask work where you see a lot of texture in masks. I'm a big fan of texture for what it can present, but also what it can hide in the recesses or the shadows. Whether it's eye holes or seam lines, things like this are crucial. To make the illusion actually attainable, we need to be able to create these in mechanical forms, right? One way or another. So if you look very closely down the middle, you see in the middle of the lip and the chin and the running piece.
I would never guess that it comes apart.
Right.
Yeah, that was a wonderful surprise.
That was great. And
exactly.
Honestly,
and that's the idea, that it keeps giving.
Honestly, it looks so cool apart especially with your beard.
Thanks. I wanted that to look like a Spartan helmet, right?
Yeah.
Like the old Corinthian helmets.
And you
and
have
then
a couple of Spartan helmets.
I do. I don't have any copies of them currently. I've sold most of those.
I'll put
and that one was also very smooth. So where this plays to the idea of, I used to work at a company called Neotech, and I worked with a lot of great guys. These guys, they all came from great art backgrounds, and one of them was a sculptor, and he worked with a guy that used to sculpt gargoyles. but these gargoyles would be seen from like 5 stories below, right? So they're 5 stories up. So the sculptor would tell him intentionally, we're making facets, we're making the lines, we sculpt in the crosshatching, we need to conduct the eye. We need to show the shading before anybody notices that they're seeing the shading so that we can present the stuff on the top. This is also goes into the theories of playing to the back row. So the more texture you provide, the more shading you're providing. The more shading you're providing, the more
that catches the light.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
the striations across the top.
It's just as textured. This is like a walnut. It's kind of the inspiration. And this is more like a conch shell that's been vented.
It looks like it's grown instead of
I always wanted this to look like coral. I was always fascinated by coral that had been taken out of the sea and then sculpted or filed down. But at the same, so you see that in these kind of edges. So you see these kind of planes here that have all been, these were all brought out and then sculpted flat. There's a lot of work that goes into these. So
that's gorgeous stuff.
Thanks. This is one that was also, this is based on more of the stuff that I was impressed of, that I saw out of a more of a Japanese aesthetic. There's a character, I think it's called Hecator or Bugman even, but he's very much that kind of Ultraman configuration of character. But then it's also a little bit Judge Dredd.
Yeah.
So it's what I visually gobbled up from heavy metal and then all the Japanese magazines I had obtained.
So with something like this, do you start with a sketch or do you just start building and go from your inspiration?
I'll start with a sketch and sketches of ideas that I'll make, but they're more ideas and launch points. So much of what I do is at the behest of an art director that it really becomes more freeing personally to just kind of go for it. Mm-hmm. I'll have an idea because this isn't the kind of thing you just start. It's complex, it's big. So this is all the lessons I've learned from different effects shows, but it's also creatively I'm letting myself run a lot, unbound, unleashed.
Yeah.
So those kind of creations, when you get to run and you get to make something like that, how much time will you spend on that before you call something like that done? This
was about a month, and this was in a great. This this is probably made in 2007 or 2008, and it's one of the last ones I haven't sold. I'm kind of at this point, it's not for sale.
No, come on.
There, I gotta thank all the patrons I have because it's like I'm more willing to hold on to my pieces. They're these diary moments, and they're all proving grounds, and they mean a lot to me. But so I'll charge a lot for them, and there's guys that own 5 of my pieces. I don't want to name my patrons just because I don't want to, but I've got guys that own 5 of my pieces, 3 of my pieces, 4 of my pieces, and these are guys that all know each other that collect a lot of art. They've got an impressive amount of art that I love.
I wanted that Spartan one where the face was like metal and then it had this Spartan.
That one's there's molds of that. I have castings of that.
I wanted that one so bad. How much do those? How much do you charge for those?
Those I charge about $1,000 for, and that's a finished paint job plus the casting. The other thing I have to figure out is the mounting procedure and how I'm going to mount the magnets. But that's about $1,000.
So for everybody listening, I don't know if that sounds like a lot or a little. I can tell you when you look at these, it sounds like a little. It's like that. How are you selling? I've got to admit, man, that.
Oh well, this is a lot of work. These are gorgeous pieces. I'll make what I want to make, and then I'll make them available. And honestly, I usually end up showing. There's a gallery locally here called Copro Nason. It's just the Copro Gallery now at Bergmont Station, and I'll show them group shows there. And then whatever doesn't sell, I just take to Monster Palooza, which has been canceled, and then that I'll sell there. So. That's always usually if I sell, it's like a nice sudden chunk of change. It's great.
Yeah. Monster Palooza is great. If you guys haven't gone, go to Monster Palooza. It's
my kids were finally at the age where I could take them.
How old are your kids?
My son is 5 and my daughter's 8.
Okay, they're
But
braver
she
than
wants
mine.
to be a makeup artist when she grows up. So she's
Okay.
begging. You know, this is the girl that asked to watch Walking Dead. You know, and she's like, how long do I have to wait till I can watch Walking Dead? You know,
That's
so,
cool.
yeah.
Oh, hey, Walking Dead wise, I've only worked. I used to work at KMB a lot, and then I went on to work at Legacy. But Greg Nicotero called me. He's like, I got this thing. I want you to make it. Actually, I saw him at Monsterpalooza. He's like, I got this thing, and I want you to make it. I'm like, Greg, I'm busy. He goes, no, I want you to make it. And he was always really cool to me. He was always really good to me, even when I was the more brash version of my younger self. Like, I'll show up late to work and whatever, maybe hungover, partied too much when I was 20. But he always brought me back, and I said absolutely, and I went. But Merle's, you can look this up. It's on the webs. But Merle Dixon's arm, that knife one.
Oh yeah.
I made that.
Oh.
I made that for him. I made a stunt version and a hero version, and then I ended up making 2 more as it progressed. But that was my claim to fame, Walking Dead wise. But that was a good one.
I'm gonna shock you guys. I've seen 1 episode.
Oh, I watched it until I got sick of them walking into the same kind of location and then backing into a zombie. It was like, these guys should be like the commandos of dealing with zombies, no matter the locale. And they should be able to walk into a house with 2 people and just sort of give each other hand signals and like, I'm going here, and just right, rule left. You know, as you move, you always go right, and you flush the room and close the door. It's like I read the Zombie Survival Guide. I read World War Z.
He was a cop. This should be used
yes,
as military
they should be able to flush the room, close the door.
That's exactly right.
Cardio.
Exactly. Hey, let me show you another one, and I want to show this one as an opposite. So this one is all smooth work, right? So that head that I held up earlier, that was all Bondo and styrene and fiberglass. This is the kind of finish that I'll give it, and this is.
So, what is that?
This was a mask that I made, but again,
what's it made out of?
Oh, Magic Sculpt. This right here is,
Really?
I haven't molded it yet. This is Magic Sculpt.
Whoa!
So you can see the inside here. Give you guys a tour of that.
It's so clean.
Crazy.
Well, not on the inside.
It looks clean on the inside to me. That looks like something right out of Star Wars. That looks like a bounty hunter you wearing that.
Well, I mean, doesn't that? I mean, it looks like Jason Voorhees right there.
Yeah,
it's just a hockey mask inside. Yeah.
But I wanted it to look like a ballistically sound tactical mask with a.
Yeah. Wear that when you go grocery shopping.
Right. So this has got all the magnet tricks, and I got a hose piece up here. I made out of all industrial pieces, but it was just a sort of demo placeholder hose. Yeah. But one thing I want to point out here, adjust my lights, is mechanically we were talking about the bridge between mechanical and organic. So this right here, this whole piece, this is soundly nestled into here, but I sculpted this by hand, and then I made a template, a paper template, and then sculpted the other side of it. But I didn't have these channels inside it. The channels what allows it to ride in that groove. Let me see if I can pop this. But if you can see the way that slides up, and then it's got magnets that, the magnets, there it is. So that's its up position, fully clear. That's the idea. Like if you were wearing it, it has to be fully clear and clear your field of view or your FOV or whatever you want, how technical you want to get. But it's fully there, and then I can bring it down. But that was all sculpted by hand.
That's beautiful.
So
it looks manufactured.
This is my crotchety old man middle finger to all the people with rapid prototype machines and maker bots and all that stuff. This is my giant to all things digital, because I achieved it and it is symmetrical. And I used a ruler and my eyeballs.
Actually, I think I remember when you were working on that.
I posted a lot of pictures. There's a lot of good ones that are just, you see it with duct tape, you see while I'm sanding it. back, I've got a piece, an unrefined piece that I kept because it's such a good, okay. So this is a piece, and this is it made out of propoxy, right? Do you know propoxy?
Yeah, the plumbers.
This is propoxy 20. And it's a plumber supply mix. But this piece here fit like this. So I was going to add another bridge in the middle. And I build these up. You see how crude and kind of bubble gum. This looks like bubble gum stuck on a chair. Right? So you stick that on a piece and you let it form. And that gives you the real estate to go ahead and file in these smooth lines. So it's a process. When I'm really busy, I can get 6 or 3, I'd say 3 or 4 pieces done in a day. So it's a lot of work, but it's a buildup that pays off, I think.
Yeah.
So again, it's like not to be dismissive of what people can achieve digitally, but I think with some discipline and the forethought, you can achieve this with your hands. Okay. And that's kind of where I'm at executing it.
Tell me what you think real quick, because people who want to go into, say, for instance, car design and such, they do that all in the computer these days. But people look at a car now and they're like, yeah, that's beautiful. It's machined. It's like fantastic. It's slick, whatever they want to say about it. But I look at old cars, like even an old Tucker. And it's just so much personality, and there's life to that car that it was hand sculpted, right?
For sure.
Using more or less monster clay. Monster clay is Chavant, and you're using that's industrial clay.
It's a wax, but there is something about being able to command it with your hands and your eyes. And there's sometimes people go, "What program did you use?" And I go, "Oh, it's this one. It's called Eyeball." And I use my eyes and my hands. Yeah, exactly. It's such a snotty. It's like now I am the old man who picks on kids for doing this digitally, right? But I don't mean to do that. I would never want to inhibit anybody in the process of creation. But what I would say is I don't think that the younger crowd appreciates the freedom they have in creation. And what I would encourage them to do is to continue and learn. This is the past. This will not be the way things are made in the future. This will inspire how that's done in the future. But until you know all the tricks you can do with this, I don't know that you'll fully appreciate what you can do with 3D and the processes given to you now. I've never been a giant fan of art history until there was something that I wanted to study. I always hated the idea of, like, I need to know what a Corinthian column was, but now I'm into that. Once I got into mythology and wanted to understand the origin of that, I'm into that.
So I think there's something to the asymmetry that's inherent in an organically, physically made piece.
For sure.
That brings life to it. The first Darth Vader helmet, they got their hands on it to remake it for the prequels.
I've seen that cat.
And they fixed it. They made it symmetrical and then went, wait a minute, something's wrong.
It looks weird symmetrical.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's also, they always gave it an asymmetrical paint job. Have you ever seen it close up to where it's like you can see that they just taped it off and gave it like a blast of silver?
No, that's cool.
Yeah, because you've got like that thumbnail mark in the first one, right?
Oh, and the Darth Vader. I thought I liked some shit on that mask that I put on.
No. You've got something brown on your nose right here. Yeah. Did you know?
Did I prank myself and charcoal the binoculars before I put my mask on?
I have recently
always doing that to myself.
I've recently started to have to wear these glasses because my eyesight's going.
Sure.
I got glasses. Like my old man reading glasses, and because it's recent, I'm not used to them, and took it off the other day, and I walked in the other room, and I've got these 2 big knots right there, and the girls are like, "What's wrong with your nose, Dad?" And I'm like,
"Yeah."
And they're like, "Something's wrong with your nose. Did you get something on your nose?" It's like I've imprinted my face.
Yeah, Bruce, you and I are practically the same age. I was born in 1971, so I was 6 when the movie came out, and I was just was floored, you know. And by the time the next movie came out, by the time Empire came out, I was hooked.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
Star Wars was my first movie. It was my first movie in the theater.
Yeah.
And then Superman came right out after that, and I couldn't tell the two apart musically.
Yeah.
So
I
I'd be
wonder
like,
why.
No, I do remember when I
like, no.
I think it was my 8th birthday. We went to go see the Black Stallion, and before the Black Stallion, there was a trailer for The Empire Strikes Back, and it opened up with the Millennium Falcon going through the meteor shower.
Yeah.
And then it went into all this, and it was Star Wars, but there was something different, and it looked dire, and it looked cool, but it looked drastic, or something was not comfortable about it. This wasn't fun Star Wars. This was going to be a trial of all the characters.
Yeah.
And remember, by the time that trailer ended, I was like, "I'm gonna watch the Black Stallion," and I was like, the Black Stallion was at the time was great. It was a really good movie, but the whole time, anytime something would slow down, I was thinking about that trailer and what kind of dire circumstances you saw the characters we all come to love in. Whether it was there's brief shots of Han and Leia with the masks on where the Minox are, and then there's a shot of Luke going down the slide, and then that trap door opens under him, and it's just there's a swamp and everything's slimy, and it looked like our beloved characters were in for some trouble. And that's where then but we'll watch this movie in the meantime.
I think I saw my first,
which was great. Yeah,
image
Black
of
Stallion's
Yoda.
a fantastic film.
Yeah, that's one of the best, arguably best films of my entire childhood, probably I've ever. It's still in my top 5 favorite movies.
Black Stallion.
Yes.
Yeah.
that and the what's its unicorn. Yes. No. What's the matter, child?
I got to give credit to the Black Stallion, especially when it's one of those that has that's one for cinematographers for sure. Cinematographers, and then the guy who creates the music, the composer. And I would also say dialogue wise, it's probably about the same amount of lines as Fury Road. And I think Fury Road was one of the best movies in recent years. I never thought of that before.
What is the one movie that made you think this movie? Okay, now I mean, maybe it was Star Wars, I don't know, but it's like it connected with you so much that you actually defined part of your life afterwards based off of it. Like, you know how you'll read a book.
Oh, I got to give 2. I would say Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome and Aliens. Both of those movies. Yeah, absolutely. I still watch both of those a lot. I go to an event called Wasteland Weekend out here, and I've gone to that.
I have friends that that.
It's gone on for 12 years, and I think I've gone to 10 of them.
You took your kids last year, right?
No, I can't take my kids until they're 18. I'll take them, but I do costume judging out there periodically.
When did your kids?
And then I'm part of different tribes, but I'm on different online forums for them, whether it's Wastelanders Unite or Wastelanders Central or different costume building forums. But we get into the weeds on the nerd argument between which is the better movie and which is the worst movie out of the original trilogy. And it's like the first Mad Max is not my favorite. I'll take Road Warrior and Beyond Thunderdome, where a lot of other people are just the opposite. We argue about it continually. But
I actually like the new one.
It's also all for the love of the franchise.
Yeah, I actually like the new one with Tom Hardy.
Me too. That was fantastic. Awesome. A lot of people early on said no Mel Gibson, no Mad Max, and I was like, oh, you're fucking wrong. No George Miller, no Mad Max.
Yeah, and George Miller was. Yeah, he did it. So all good with that. Yeah, we are at 2.5 hours.
We should let you go.
Hey, that's cool. This has gone by super fast, and I want to leave this as an open invite to please connect. And I've got other things that I'm making personally as we go through our pandemic, lockdown, quarantine. I'm going to stay creative and do my thing, but
also, if you have any links like LinkedIn, I got you on Instagram and such.
Cool. If you got me on Instagram and Facebook, that's really about it. And then if you just drop the again, let me briefly go into this. The whole name of this, it's Bruce D. Mitchell, Conceptual Executioner. The idea behind the Conceptual Executioner is when I first got into special effects, we were all making our own business cards, right? And it was like, you do this, this, and this. It'd be somebody's name, and then it'd say model making, special effects, prosthetics, miniatures. And it would be this gambit of all the rigmarole that we do. It's storyboards, concept drawings, all this kind of stuff. So for a while, it just said Bruce D. Mitchell, intergalactic kung fu bounty hunter effects guy, and then slash effects guy. And then I came up with Conceptual Executioner, which was just sort of this. I like it as a moniker, but it really, to me, as an ethos, means that if I can think it up, I can make it. It doesn't necessarily mean that I'm the conceptual artist for a project, but it's that a lot of times in shops they got to pull the trigger on that design. So it was like to execute that design. So I became the conceptual executioner. So
Excellent.
That was the idea behind that. So, boom.
Dig it.
Awesome. Bruce, man, this has been fantastic. You have shown us and inspired us quite a lot. I want to encourage everybody who's listening to also go in and check out Bruce's work. And if you can, also check out those people that have inspired Bruce, because we want to inspire all of you as well. There are numerous resources out there these days, but as Bruce says, make sure you actually pay attention to the old school stuff, because learning to do it traditionally is what will help you do everything else in all these fancy modern techniques. But we want everybody to be inspired, stay creative, and be healthy. So any last thoughts?
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to have you on here and get a chance to talk to you.
Thank you both. Before I go, I gotta say, anything that I've done in my own artistic creation has been an expression of what I've learned on working on projects, and that I've done with 100 other people, 40 people at least, on every project. I've never done any of the things I've done by film by myself. It's part of being a team, and it truly is a collaborative effort. So it's taking inspiration, but it's also knowing how to be a player and a part.
Right.
So it's collaborative. Dream big, make everything you can yourself, but know that the giant stuff is achieved by sharing your own dreams with other people and still pursuing the commonality of it all. That's where we'll find it. So.
Yep.
Perfect.
Cheers, man.
Dream
Again,
big, everybody.
anytime.
You can make anything.
Dream big.
All right.
You know, I think we're all fans of each other, and we all feed off each other, and the energy that you bring to a project inspires me. Like, oh, maybe I have to try something like that. And
Yes.
Awesome. You got to show me your mask too, man. I want to see what you made.
all right, I'll send you a picture of it.
Awesome.
Thanks for joining us today. Bruce is always a lot of fun to talk to, and if I might suggest giving him a follow on Instagram, he's always posting cool stuff, and he can be found under conceptual_executioner. So Conceptual Executioner. See you all in 2 weeks as we meet up with a guy that I've come to really admire. I've gotten to know him through the Maker Alliance. Bob Claggett from I Like to Make Stuff is going to be joining us next week. He and his team are really, really good folks, and we can't wait to share our chat with you in the next episode. See you then.